If you're a freelance brand or web designer who's stuck in a cycle of burnout with projects dragging out for months and clients that seem to be constantly testing your limits, don't start another project until you have these 3 boundaries in place. I'm Alyssa Downey. I am a self-employed brand and web designer, and I help other ambitious self-employed designers nail their processes, wow their clients, and grow their businesses with confidence. In this video, you're going to learn 3 important boundaries to set with your freelance design clients to help your projects go smoother so that both you and your clients walk away feeling fulfilled and happy with your experience working with each other. The first boundary I want you to go set is a client feedback deadline. Now, this is going to be a game changer for you if you struggle with clients ghosting you in the middle of a project after you send over an updated design proof, and those clients are not getting back to you for days or even weeks. Or maybe you start out your project saying, this project is going to take us 4 weeks, whatever your timeline is, and then 12 weeks later, you're not even close to the finish line because the client has been dragging their feet. This is something that I used to experience with almost every single design project when I first started my business. Let me know in a comment if this is something you've experienced as well, because it is very common. So the way to stop these things from happening is to set a client feedback deadline. A feedback deadline is a date that the client is required to reply to you by. By that date, they have to send you feedback, edit requests, required information that you need to move forward, or approval of the project, whatever it is that you need. My client feedback deadline is 2 business days after they receive a design proof. They must reply to me within 2 business days. Now, the big question is, how do you enforce this boundary? Step 1, of course, is going to be put it in your design contract. Disclaimer, I am not a lawyer, so please talk to your lawyer about exact wording and legality for your business, but you can add to your design contract that clients must reply with feedback within 2 business days, or whatever number of days you decide works for you. Step number 2 for enforcing this is to communicate it clearly at the start of the project. I actually have a face-to-face onboarding meeting with new clients during which I review important policies, and this is one of them. So they're made aware of this important deadline before we even start any of the design. And step 3 for enforcing this is to remind them of this deadline when you send the design proofs. So when you send a proof, put somewhere in the top of your email, please let me know your feedback by X date. And then, of course, if you don't hear from them by that date, follow up and remind them of the deadlines. Don't just sit around for a week and hope they get back to you soon. Keep on them. And then step number 4, this is the step that is going to make all the difference here. Decide what the repercussion will be if this deadline is missed. Does their project get rescheduled? Is there a late communications fee? For me personally, if a client is a day or so late on their feedback, it's not really a big deal. But if their project starts to fall a week or so behind because they've waited a week to reply, or if they're continuously not getting me feedback within about 2 business days, then according to my design contract, we might have to reschedule it for my next availability with a significant rescheduling fee. And no client, of course, ever wants to pay more or wait longer than what you initially talked about. So when you have a big repercussion that they've contractually agreed to, then you can point back to that, and they're not going to drag their feet. They're going to rush to get you feedback. So decide on what your feedback deadline is going to be, and then follow those steps to start enforcing it right away. Boundary number 2, this is going to be a big one for you if you feel like you're burning out because you feel like you have no work-life balance. This is also for you if you feel like your clients expect you to just always be available and they're not respecting the fact that you don't just sit at your computer and work 24/7. They're contacting you all hours of the day and on weekends for emergencies, and you feel like you just can't catch a break. This is for you if you feel the pressure to reply to clients within, an hour of hearing from them. And if you don't reply to them, they email you again, like, did you get my email? Is this you? Let me know in a comment if you ever feel like this. So here's the boundary that you need to set. You need to set business hours. Remember this. As a freelancer, you are a business owner. Freelance designers sometimes get a reputation for being very lackadaisical, like we work weird hours, we're desperate for any project we can get our hands on. People think that they can get away with more things if they work with a freelancer instead of an agency, but you are not just a freelancer. If you are making money working with clients, you are running a business. Now, by all means, if you want to work on design projects at 3 a.m., go for it. If you want to work on Saturdays, do it. You can work whenever you want to, but I strongly recommend setting business hours for clients that you are open and closed. So you can do 9 to 5, you can do 10 to 4, you can do noon to 7, whatever works for you. But whatever you decide, do not communicate with clients outside of those hours. Here's why this is an important boundary. If you choose to be available, say 9 to 5 on weekdays, when you start communicating with clients on the weekends, you set a precedent that you're always going to be available on the weekends. So later on, when you're suddenly not because you decided to do something else on the weekend, your clients are going to be upset because they're used to hearing from you on the weekends. Similarly, if you reply to a few emails at 11 p.m., when you actually decide to go to bed before 11 p.m. and a client emails you saying, oh my gosh, my website has a glitch, and you don't reply because you're sleeping, they're going to freak out and be frustrated that you weren't available. And now there goes your work-life balance. You feel this pressure to always be immediately available. When I first started my business, I didn't have any set work hours and I didn't have any boundaries around when I was available to communicate with my clients. I had one particular client who would always contact me with things they deemed urgent on the weekends. Whether or not they really were urgent is a different conversation for a different video, but initially I would reply. Eventually I decided I wanted to stop doing that, so the next time this client contacted me, I replied and said, I'll get back to you on Monday. But the issue was they were already so used to me replying on the weekends that unfortunately that made them upset. And then the next weekend, that client contacted me again and I didn't respond at all because I had already then explained to them that my new boundary was that I was only going to respond on weekdays. And the client got really upset. Now, the fact that they didn't respect me setting this boundary is again a different story, but the point is I set that precedent. So when it comes to setting business hours, you can look at it like this. If your clients were working with pretty much any other larger design studio, they would only be able to communicate with them during their business hours. Same with any other industry other than design. If the business is closed, the business is closed. They have to wait until it opens. So if this is something that you experience and you're feeling your work-life balance slipping away from you and you want to get it back, after you finish this video, go set your business hours and don't be afraid to stick to them. The thing that the client says is urgent probably is not urgent. As my designer friend and I say to each other, there are no design emergencies. Okay, boundary number 3. This is one of my favorites. Is it weird to have a favorite boundary? But I love it because it's so revolutionary for your business. This one is client content deadlines. So similar to feedback deadlines, but we're talking about content and information that you need from the client in order to do the project. I'll use the example of website content. For me, when I work on a website design, I do not write the copy and I do not take the photos for the client. The copy and the photos need to come from them, or they can work with a copywriter and photographer. But either way, I can't design the website without these things. When I started working for myself several years ago, every single one of my web design projects was dragging out for months because clients were not getting me their website content. Have you ever dealt with this? Tell me in a comment if this is something you can relate to. Eventually, I did something that stopped this from happening so that now every single one of my web design project timelines stays on track. What I did was set a client content deadline. Like the feedback deadline, this is a specific date by which the client needs to share all of their final website copy and photos and information. And if they don't meet this deadline, we have to reschedule their project with a significant rescheduling fee. So I've used web design as an example here, but you can apply this content deadline to any type of design project where you need information up front from the client in order to do the design. Seriously, this deadline is a game changer. Add it to your contract, communicate it, enforce it. I'm going to expand more on how I implemented this and how I make it work in a future video, so stay tuned for that. All right, there you have it. 3 boundaries that will help you work better with your brand and web design clients and preserve your work-life balance as a freelance design business owner. Let me know in a comment below which of these boundaries you're most excited to put into practice for your own design business. If you want to dig deeper into working better with your clients, please sign up for my free 5-day email series, Freelance Essentials, at the link in the description below. You'll get 1 email a day for 5 days about how to better solidify your boundaries, avoid mistakes in your design business, and guide your clients through projects smoothly. Stay tuned for the next video in this series about client deadlines and boundaries. Can't wait to chat more with you soon.